and welcome. I'm Lisa Mitrakin, and I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. It's been a while since I made a proper tutorial for you guys, and I'm thrilled to be able to bring you one of these intermission episodes during Mermaid Madness. During this first tutorial, I will show you how colors change underwater at different depths and also teach you my technique for creating the underwater illusion. So stick around. Our epic May colorathon, Mermaid Madness, just kicked off a few hours ago with streams by Michelle Color, the Coloring Book Club, Jennifer Zimmerman, Emily Illustrator, and Color with Faithful Girl. And many more are coming. When we say madness, we mean madness. Oh, and don't forget yours truly. My first 2-hour live show will start in just a few hours, and I'll teach you guys to color jellyfish and introduce some very special guests, a professional artist duo, Matt and Dawn Davidson. But I'm getting carried away. This episode is all about color, and specifically how colors change underwater. This being a mermaid-themed event, you probably already have your hands full with underwater scenes and characters. And knowing a few secrets about how colors behave differently at different depths can be very useful just about now. The page that I will be using for this demonstration is one of the 3 pages from my Mermaid Madness set. This page is called Skin Deep, and of course you can find it in my Etsy shop with a big fat discount on it, if it's still May. If you're watching this in the future, the set is probably listed at its regular price, but it's still there. I printed my page on gray toned paper. Since we're dealing with muted colors and the depth of the ocean, it's good to get a head start on a base layer that's a little bit darker. Working on white paper can be tricky, especially if you know that you need the whole scene to be dark in the end. But that's not to say that it's impossible. All the same effects can be achieved on classic white paper. Personally though, I prefer gray. Tan, green, or blue will also work just as well. Gray is just my go-to paper these days, mainly because I like the texture of it. As always, when working on toned paper, I start with white. I'm using white charcoal to establish my ultimately lightest areas. Contrary to what the name suggests though, this stuff is not actually charcoal. It's some kind of a synthetic mix of chalk and magic. Regardless of what its chemical composition is, this stuff is awesome. I use it all the time. And I prefer the stick form. The sticks are the same exact dimensions as the standard colored pencils, so you can easily use your regular pencil sharpener with it. But they also come in a pencil form, so if you prefer the classic pencil shape, if you're used to holding that in your hand, go with pencils. They work exactly the same way. I just prefer the feel of the stick version. They don't powder the way that chalks or pastels do, so it's the same as holding a pencil. They're truly magical. They just make perfect white marks on paper and leave nothing on your hands. They don't fade, powder, or smudge. I also like to use a Q-tip to rub the pigment into the page for a more smoky effect. By the way, all the materials that I use in all of my videos are always listed in the video description below, so you can check that out after the show. Now that I have my light areas established, it's time to start thinking about color selection. Skin tones underwater. That can be tricky. So let's take a minute and look at what actually happens to colors underwater. As a diver, I had to study color change at various depths, and it's absolutely fascinating. You'd think that each color would just change its tone or shade, becoming slightly darker than usual, but that's not actually the case. Different colors being defined by specific wavelengths disappear completely at different depths. Red is the first to go, at 20 feet or less, followed by orange at about 50, and then yellow at about 100 feet deep. Green and blue remain green and blue up to about 200 feet. And magenta, being a mix of blue and red, is somewhere between the strongest and the weakest colors underwater. And this is what color samples look like at the depth of about 90 feet. As you can see, red is gone completely. It's not recognizable as red at all. It just looks black or really dark purple. Yellow and light green actually reversed, which is really trippy. But the blues are still pretty accurate. Notice how orange and brown become this pale cantaloupe and straight up blue. This is what's going to happen to the skin tones as well. Instead of the peachy, creamy brown, orange, pink, yellow tones, I will actually get more blue, green, gray, and even yellowish colors. Now, do I want my mermaid to be so deep that the colors are not recognizable? Probably not. It can be a cool effect, but in this case, I want the character to be visible and readable. So I will put her at about 50 feet deep, where her green and yellow tones will still be close to accurate. I imagine her tail to be green, and I want to show that off. I start my skin tones with a grayish brown and then proceed to add a layer of blue. This technique is all about layering. You can't find one perfect color to express the underwater color work. Layering is what will create that diffused look that we associate with objects underwater. And by the way, you can achieve all these effects with any brand of pencil. I happen to be working mainly with Black Widows and Prismacolors, but I never really plan my colors completely, or even look at the names as I'm working. I kind of plan them, but broadly. I tend to select a pile of pencils that I set next to my workstation, and the colors that I choose are the colors that I know will probably make sense in the composition, but I usually end up using about 50% of what I've selected. Remember, coloring isn't a formula. Try to rather understand the concept of the effect that you want to achieve, and approach it more intuitively. And here's something that I find to be the coolest part of this whole underwater color change thing. By picking your color schemes according to what we're learning now, you can tell your audience how deep underwater the character is without having any reference objects in the composition. If the colors are very dark and there's absolutely no orange or red and only traces of yellow, you know your character is very deep, like over 100 feet deep. If you can clearly see orange and red colors and everything is very detailed and vibrant, your character is probably close to the surface. Neat, right? Here, at the depth of about 40 to 50 feet, the natural skin tones are gone completely, replaced by brown, green, and blue colors instead. With a fictional character like a mermaid, that makes things doubly interesting. Is she actually this color if she surfaces, like a fish? Or is she a human-looking girl who is just very deep underwater? As I was writing up an outline for this tutorial, I was thinking of different ways to explain the color changes that would occur if we put this character above water on a sunny day, but I was struggling with the exact color descriptions. So I just decided to draw what I had in mind. This is how I imagine she looks like when she surfaces. Pretty dramatic difference in skin tones and hair, right? Outside the water, her hair is dark red. At my selected depth, however, the red is strongly distorted and muted. So I'm going with more muddy brown effects and some suggestions of blue. In the end, though, despite not being pure red, the hair will still clearly stand out from the rest of the character, making it even more obvious how gorgeous this color would be on the surface. When dealing with the skin color change, I also have to consider all the water ripple distortions. The skin will no longer appear smooth and flawless. Instead, it's streaked with blue, green, and white patterns. Some of these are shadows cast by her floating hair, and some are reflections from the water shimmer. There's no exact science for where to place these. You kind of have to eyeball it and see where they make the most sense. Make sure, though, that they follow the curves of the body so that your character doesn't look flat. Now, the next thing we need to consider is the watercolor itself. It's easy to take it for granted. Water's blue, right? But what kind of blue? When you look at something like this, even if you've never been diving, snorkeling, or even swimming, you intuitively know that this is shallow, very warm tropical water. But when you see something like this, you know that it's deep and probably cold. There are two main things to pay attention to when it comes to water at different depths. First, the color itself. Is it light blue or turquoise? Or is it deep blue, green, brown, or even black? And second, the visibility. How crisp or murky is the water? As the depth increases, we lose definition. Things become more fuzzy, harder to make out. You can't really see clear contours of anything. While in shallow water, everything is crisp and clean and sharp. So remember to consider that in your coloring. If you're going with darker colors, thus more depth, you may also want to try to go for a more fuzzy look. That's what I'm doing here with the tail, as it blends in with the murk of the water. I'm applying so many layers of dark blue, brown, and green, and intentionally using all the same colors on the tail as on the water, that the outlines are starting to disappear. Also, I'm making the bottom of my entire composition darker, suggesting that it gets deeper fast. My main focal point here is the girl's face, chest, and arms. And that's why they're nicely lit and everything else is intentionally less defined. For my final touches, I'm using a white gel pen to add just a few more highlights to the water shimmer on the face of the girl and the little fish around her. I apply small amounts of liquid ink to the areas that I want to be better defined and quickly smear them with a Q-tip while the ink is still wet. That creates a nice little glare effect. And there you have it. Looking at this finished piece, you can clearly see that the character is pretty deep and probably in pretty cold water. This is not tropical paradise water, and definitely not close to the surface. This is a bit creepy, a bit dark, and intentionally so, of course. We can also clearly tell that she has red hair and pale skin, despite the color distortions. The brain naturally takes care of these color conversions and translations for us. So when you see something like this, you know exactly what it means. The trick is playing it backwards. How do you create the illusion? Hopefully this tutorial was helpful in that regard, and you learned some new tricks that you can apply for your awesome Mermaid Madness pages. Incidentally, if you want to practice coloring a similar character that's partially in the water and partially outside the water, applying what you've learned today, I have the perfect page for you. This is a character from my book Knights and Mares Femme Macabre, and she's my gift to you for watching this video all the way through. I know that half of the viewers already dropped off when I said this is my last effect, but you are still here. So thank you, video fan. This is Easter egg number 2. Shoot me a private message on Facebook with the code phrase Madness Managed, and I will send you this page as a digital download. But remember, it's a secret. Don't tell anyone. Don't reveal the timestamp of this Easter egg or the code phrase. Just do me a favor. When you post this page colored, tag it as Lisa Mitrakin's Easter egg number 2. And tell them you're a true video fan. This Easter egg will remain active for the rest of 2020. So on that note, go grab your pages and try your hand at underwater color distortion. Don't forget to use the hashtag MermaidMadness2020 and have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Up next, we have Daria Draws, followed by Color and Felt Heather, and then I'll see you for my 2-hour show. So actually, I'll see you in just a couple of hours. Bye!